Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei never become devil in Harem? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Issei Haidu. A man dressed in suit and tie with slick back hair and a pair of thick rimmed glasses that cast a glare which covered his eyes, sat a large wooden desk with his hands folded out in front of his face as he glared across the desk. Sitting in front of him was a young man with spiky brown hair and dark green eyes, wearing a white high school jacket over a red hoodie. He sat with his feet up against a large imposing desk with an smugly annoyed expression plastered on his face as he refused to make eye contact with the glasses wearing man. "Issei, do you know why I brought you here today?" The well-dressed man growled. "Yeah, but I bet you're gonna tell me anyway." Issei quipped back with a roll of his eyes. "Listen Issei, we hoped our academy would be able to provide you with the proper attitude adjustment, but unfortunately you've been here 6 months already and you haven't joined any clubs, made any real friends of note, and today, the first day of your second year, you got into another fight. That's 3 since you transferred in last year." The counselor continued in a very passive-aggressive tone. "This one wasn't really much of a fight, more like just a punch and then a lot of crying and bleeding from the mouth," Issei added, now looking out the window. "We overlooked the first 2 incidents because of your exceptional grades and of course because of your grandfather, but considering your, extensive history of violent tendencies, we've determined this is a problem beyond our capacity of solving." The counselor sat his hands down flat on the desk, signaling he'd finished his speech. "Aw, that's alright. Instead, maybe you guys can focus on the problem of seniors groping freshmen in the hallways, maybe then less of them will get punched in the face." Issei commented on getting the counselor's seemingly stoic expression to crack ever slightly, which made the young man smirk. "You know Issei, the response from a well-adjusted student in that situation would have been to alert a teacher, not to put the other student into the hospital with a shattered jaw." The counselor tried his best to keep his cool, but Issei almost could see the anger radiating off of him, and this only served to delight the young troublemaker. "Oh, come on. I hit him once. Dude had like 5 inches on me and it only took 1 punch. Even the losers back at my old school could take 2 or 3 real swings before dropping. Come on, let's cut to the chase. You and I both know where this is going, so get it over with." Issei finally sat up and made eye contact with the counselor, shooting him an intense look that made the grown man nervous. "Well, yes. Being that we as a school have determined this issue unsolvable, we have no choice but to expel you. Please MMFF. The counselor was interrupted as Issei threw his school jacket onto the man's face. "Oh no, it's so sad, whatever shall I do?" Issei said uncensoredly as he buried his hands into his hoodie jacket and marched out of the room, slamming the door behind him. He then began to make his way towards the door, but what couldn't have been more than a 100-meter walk felt like a marathon as the judgmental eyes of his classmates began bearing down on him. "So that's the guy, dude just got expelled and he doesn't even care. Wow, scary. Not saying the upperclassman should have gotten away with it, but he shouldn't have been sent to the hospital. He's like some kind of monster. More like a demon. Yeah. Why don't you try saying that shit to my face?" Issei roared out loud, quickly clearing the hallway. "This school crap," he growled as he pushed open the front door to the school, and waiting for him was a long black limousine with the back seat window rolled down, with a furious-looking old man waiting for him. "Oh, shit. Later." An awkward silence had filled the limo for a good chunk of the ride as the old man exuded an imposing aura of fury that even intimidated Issei to the point of silence. He sported an imposing physical physique despite his advanced age. The old man wore a dark gray kimono that was left open and exposed his rippling pectorals, and he wore his gray hair up in a bun. He sat silently with his eyes closed and his arms crossed. "Issei. If you're waiting for a lecture, don't bother. At this point you've heard it so many times, there's no new way for me to spin it. It's been 7 years almost to the day since I took you in after your parents' passing, and in those 7 years it's been 10 schools, 32 fights, 25 kids sent to the hospital, and not a single sign that you're willing to change this violent behavior. No point in a lecture, huh? Well, here it comes. Guess you just can't help yourself, old-timer." Issei thought to himself, still too afraid to say anything out loud. Sports didn't work, private school didn't work, and even an all-boys boarding school didn't work. The counselors want nothing to do with you, the therapists and psychiatrists can't fix you because they don't know what's wrong with you, and now even your grades aren't enough to help you. There's not a public high school left in Kyoto that will take on someone with your record. The old man continued to lecture as his eyes remained shut and his arms remained crossed. "So what? We're back to private schools," Issei muttered very softly, knowing that he was on as thin of ice as you could imagine, even so much as speaking. No. Issei's grandfather's eyes finally opened his eyes as he answered. I've determined that the big city environment is not healthy for you, so I'm sending you to school in a mountain town called Kuoh. What? Issei stood up in the car and roared back at his grandfather, but the old man shot Issei a quick but deadly look that immediately made the boy go silent and fall back into his chair. This school only recently went from being all girls to co-ed, so the female population far outweighs the male, so the likelihood of you getting into fights should be minimized in this situation, but should you prove still willing to lash out, I'll give you this one final warning. Issei, this will be your very last chance. If you're unable to complete your high school education at Kuoh, you'll end up doing so overseas. Issei's grandfather said in a tone that shook the young delinquent to his core. Do you understand me, Issei? The young man wanted nothing more to argue back at his grandfather, to tell him this sort of treatment was unfair, but he knew that there was no argument he could make that would sway the old man, so as they pulled into the driveway of the massive mansion estate Issei had called home up until now, the emerald-eyed boy gave in to his grandfather's demands. Yes, sir. Great, go pack your stuff, you start tomorrow. Issei's grandfather exited the limo without another sound, leaving Issei to sink into his seat. Great. Can't wait. Issei said to no one in particular as he lied still and motionless, letting this development sink in. Next day, Kuoh Academy. Ha. Issei sighed as he stood and watched as a handful of students poured in through the front door of a large Victorian-style white school building with dark wooden roofs. Man, this whole place looks ancient, bet the students out here still use goddamn flip phones. Issei complained to himself. He had ditched his old red hoodie and now rocked the full Kuoh uniform, an open black blazer over an open white dress shirt and a red t-shirt, along with a pair of black pants. Whatever, this. He muttered as he slowly, reluctantly shuffled his way to the door. Immediately upon entering the school, rumors and mutterings from other students began to attack the new student's ears. So that's the new kid, huh? I think he's in second year. I hear he's from Kyoto, why would he want to transfer out here? Look at his eyes, that's pretty strange, right? He's kinda cute. I don't know, I'm getting a real thug vibe from him. You think that's why he transferred? He's some kind of thug. While they appeared to be trying their best to be discreet with their muttering, Issei could hear every word and every comment chipped away at his already short temper. Shut it. Wham. Issei slammed his fist into a wall hard enough to chip some of the paint, and in doing so silenced nearly every mouth in the school. Issei turned back to his frightened classmates and shot them a terrifying glare that nearly the pants of the entire building. If you have something to say to me, say it to my face. Issei roared before marching away, and the mutterings continued. Whoa. Scary. Later. Alright everyone, we have a new student joining us today, please treat him well. A faceless teacher signaled for Issei's introduction, and the spiky-haired boy made his entrance. Issei slowly marched his way up to the chalkboard and quickly scribbled his name down in a hurry. Issei Haidu. He spat out his name as quickly as he could before marching his way towards an empty seat on the window side of the classroom. Meanwhile, frightened looks and quick inaudible whispers began to bombard Issei from his classmates. First impressions are killer, Issei said to himself before burying his head into his arms at his new desk. Next order of business, we're going to need someone to show Issei here around. So who'd like to volunteer? The faceless teacher imposed, prompting a few small shrieks and for the female classrooms to quickly lean away from the frightening transfer students. Looks like the girls are a little shy today. Mitsuda, Motohama, would you two be willing to show our new student around campus? US. The two young men, one with a shaved head and thick eyebrows and the other with long hair and a pair of goggles that hid his eyes with a permanent glare, immediately stood up shocked upon being called out from their classmates. They both slowly turned around to get a look at the new student, who was already shooting the two of them a frightening glare as he continued to rest his head on his arms. No way, bro. The highly animated Mitsuda quickly and violently shook his head in refusal. This dude is clearly some kind of psycho or something. If that glare doesn't kill ya, I guarantee he has something that will. I concur. The more analytical Motohama replied. It'd be one thing if he was crazy and a super hot girl, but what is there to achieve helping out some other dude? The two odd boys continued their strange conversation as Issei once again buried his face once again until they were saved by the school broadcast system. Issei Haidu to the student council office. Issei Haidu to the student council office immediately. The voice-over announcement repeated, getting Issei to lift his head up from his arms. Already. Usually I can make it at least a day before being called out of class. Issei mumbled to himself as he stood up and began to head towards the door. Oh wait. Do you need someone too? The teacher was interrupted by a dismissive wave of Issei's hand. No need, these places are all the same anyway. I can find my way around. Issei declared before slamming the classroom door shut behind him. Issei took a few steps down the empty hallways before a repressed feeling of dread overcame him. Man. What did I do this time? He roared out loud, getting some of the surrounding classrooms to notice, but no one was brave enough to go out and try to quiet him. What the hell, I didn't even do anything. Don't tell me I'm getting crap for what happened this morning, damn Hicktown. If they give Grandpa a call the first day of school I'm ed, it doesn't matter that nothing even happened. Ugh. This place sucks. Issei roared once more, angrily burying his hands into his jacket pockets, and continued his trek to the student council room. The frustrated Issei continued his trek towards the student council room, negative thoughts storming in his head the entire march. That was until another presence emerged in the delinquents' hallway. A presence that seemed to make the hallway smell sweeter and brighten things up a bit more. The girl, a senior with marvelous crimson red hair, sapphire blue eyes, perfect proportions and an absolutely beautiful face that turned the grumbling Issei silent, though his mind continued to run. Whoa, who the hell is this? She's some kind of foreign student. Out here in the middle of nowhere. Whatever's going on, she's stunning. Issei's mind quickly became overwhelmed with thoughts of this beautiful upperclassman, to the extent that he didn't even realize he'd be staring at the girl with his signature scowl for some time at this point. The scarlet-haired beauty responded with quick but potent smile that melted away Issei's sour expression, replacing it with a dumb-looking confused face. Issei watched as his upperclassman walked away without so much as saying a word, only further confusing the second-year student. Who was that? Later, student council office. Welcome Issei Haidu. Another upperclassman, a bespectacled girl with a slim figure, short black hair and violet-purple eyes dressed in the Kuoh girl's uniform, sat alone at a very large desk with a single empty chair in front of it. Please have a seat. Sure. Issei answered awkwardly as something about the dimly lit student council room, and more specifically the small upperclassman who seemed to be in charge, that made the violent teen feel uneasy. As soon as he exited the threshold entered the room, the door was immediately shut behind him. Slam. Whoa. The already unnerved Issei shrieked as he turned to see a shapely young woman also sporting black hair and glasses, standing only a few inches behind him. Tsubaki, please don't frighten young Mr. Haidu. The student council president instructed, and the tall dark-haired girl backed away to the corner of the room, leaving Issei upset by the comment. Issei marched over and took his seat in a standoffish manner, and he moved to put his feet up against the desk, but before he could he received a warning. Please don't place your feet on my desk. The student council hissed in a manner that immediately sapped all the confidence from the boy, and he carefully, cautiously placed both feet firmly on the ground in front of him. Why yeah, okay. Issei muttered back extremely softly, for whatever reason he felt unable to meet her gaze. Issei Haidu, I'm the student council president Sona Sitri. The short-haired girl finally introduced herself, but at this point it was far from what you'd consider a warm welcome. Sitri huh? That name doesn't sound very Japanese, so where? Issei was quickly silenced as he was shot a death glare that swiftly ended his speaking. We're not here to talk about me, Mr. Haidu. Do you know why I called you out here today? Issei didn't answer, even though he knew full well what she must have been referring to. You have a reputation for being an extremely violent individual, and on your first day here you may not have broken any rules, but you already managed to create quite the stir on your first day. I'd like to confirm whether or not you're a threat to the sanctity of my school. This comment immediately cracked Issei up. PFFT. Ha 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 ha. He laughed in the student council president, causing her sour expression to intensify. I'm sorry. It's just, oh, the sanctity of my school. PFFT. Issei continued his mockery. I'm sorry, but isn't your job to make sure the art club doesn't exceed their $20 budget buying paint? This is just usually a speech the guidance counselor gives, or maybe even the principal. Ha ha ha. Issei rubbed laughter tears from his eyes before Sona reached out and grabbed him by the t-shirt, pulling him in and forcing him to lock eyes before. I don't care who you are, where you come from or what sort of reputation you have. Nobody makes light of my student council. You understand? The short-haired girl explained very seriously, getting the frightened Issei to respond with a slow nervous nod. Just so you know, during the day I'm in charge of this school and I'm responsible for everyone in it, meaning if you do end up causing trouble you'll have to deal with me. Look. Issei spoke up, managing to free himself from the president's grip before standing up to leave. I'm not here to cause any trouble, I'm here cause I have nowhere else to go. He answered on his way to the door, stopping just before exiting to get one last bit of info off his tongue. Oh, and just fee. You may be a big deal around here, President, but if I were you or anyone else I'd think twice about trying to pick a fight with me too. He said, accompanied by a stare that was completely void of arrogance, replaced by pure seriousness before slam. The door was quickly and ferociously slammed behind Issei on his way out. President Tsubaki, who had remained quietly in the corner this whole time, spoke up once again. Did you sense that as well? Yes. Sona put her hands together in front of her as if she was analyzing something. I'm not exactly sure who or what he is exactly, but I don't think he knows either. Regardless, it may be smart to heed his warning, he definitely has the potential to be dangerous. Well then, pardon my saying so, President. Tsubaki continued. Before he finds out exactly what he can do, wouldn't it be a good idea for us to? No. Sona interrupted, quickly silencing Tsubaki. He may be strong, but he also comes off as a real jerk. He's definitely not student council material. I understand, should I inform Lady Rias that he's fair game then? Tsubaki replied with a nod. Sure, why not? He seems like something she'd be into anyway. Sona agreed, still in her thinking position. Later. Ding. Dong. The school bell rang out, signaling the end of the day, and all the students not currently involved in any clubs began their treks home, and among them was Issei, still filled with angst from the earlier encounter. Phew, this place. Issei exclaimed out loud, prompting uneasy looks from the other students that had the poor luck to be standing next to him. I'll tell you, something about this place is just off, makes me feel weird somehow. I don't care how many hot foreigners they have here. I do not like this place. Eventually Issei got to the point where he was far enough from his school that he was walking alone, at least that was the case until he came bridge over a small creek, and standing at the highest point of that bridge overlooking the water was a young girl with a well-proportioned figure, long black hair and violet red eyes. She was wearing a school uniform, but not the one for Kuoh Academy, and the second Issei stepped foot on the bridge, her attention was immediately focused on Issei. Oh, are you Issei Haidu? The dark-haired girl said with a friendly smile as she elegantly brushed her flowing hair out of her face. Here we go, another school, another gold digger after grandpa's money. Luckily I've discovered a foolproof way to deal with this type of interaction. Issei steadied his expression and kept walking, refusing to make eye contact with the beautiful young girl. Yep, he finally answered as he passed the girl. The dark-haired girl was immediately thrown off by Issei's attitude, but she quickly managed to refocus herself. Well, my name is Yuma Amano and I. Really? Issei interrupted. You probably should go tell someone who give a. This proved to be the straw that broke the camel's back, as Yuma was unable to recover from Issei's violently cold indifference. Wah. She muttered as Issei kept walking, leaving her alone on the bridge. Having successfully avoided Yuma, Issei continued his walk home. Eventually he came across an average-sized, two-story suburban house that made Issei cringe upon seeing it. Home sweet home, huh? Click. Issei opened the door and entered the dark and empty house and let out a short sigh before flipping on the light switch. I appreciate the old man finding me a place close to campus, but he really went overboard with a whole house. I would have preferred an apartment, honestly. This much space all to myself makes me feel lonely. Issei quickly shook off the negative thoughts and tossed his school shirt and jacket to the side before plopping down in a reclining chair. Maybe it's my punishment for being such a piece of shit all these years. At least he got the place fully furnished. Issei looked around his empty living room, and the lonely feeling from before was beginning to set back in. So I'm pretty sure I was supposed to do, but for whatever reason I can't figure it out. I guess I could get started on some homework. A few hours later. Crap. Issei groaned as he closed his notebook shut and stuffed it back in his backpack. I hate when they let you do homework in advance. Now what am I supposed to do the rest of the month? Issei put his hands behind his head before grimly, his stomach roared at him. I can sulk later, time to eat, Issei decided as he made his way into his kitchen and opened up his fridge to find it empty. Oh, that's right, I was supposed to get groceries. Shit. Issei pulled out a smartphone and checked the time, which read 10:19. Well shit, he muttered to himself. No restaurant worth a damn is gonna be open this late on a weeknight, and the grocery stores will be closing too. Issei thought to himself before something clicked. I do think I remembered seeing a convenience store somewhere around here. Not exactly fine dining, but I'm hungry enough that a cup or two of instant noodles sounds pretty good right now. Plus I could probably pick up something for lunch tomorrow too. Plus I could take the opportunity to go on a midnight jog since I didn't exercise this morning. Later. Wah. Issei, now dressed in his red hoodie along with a pair of athletic pants, panted as he jogged down the empty sidewalk. I thought I'd seen a convenience store somewhere around here. Don't tell me it was back that other way. Well, at least I'm getting a good look at the neighborhood. Man, these suburban normies must think I'm some kind of weirdo. To be fair, they're not wrong. Issei stopped and jogged in place in front of a traffic light as he waited for the light to change colors before crossing. Alright, if I don't see it by the time I reach that next light, I'm turning back around and trying the other way. Issei decided. Having the sidewalk to himself, he decided to go all out and sprint the 150 meters of sidewalk between the two lights, making sure he tapped his hand against the light post before slowing down. Whoa. He sighed out loud as he took in a deep breath. I think I earned myself a 5-minute break. Issei pulled out his smartphone to pass the time, and that's when he noticed a message from Grandpa which read, "How was your first day?" This message angered Issei, getting him to grit his teeth before he stuffed the phone back in his pocket. Yeah right old man, if you really gave a shit then would you send me out here to live in this nowhere town by myself? The angry Issei kicked a pebble on the sidewalk that went flying out of view. Damn it, you know why. It's because I've been nothing but a major asshole for as long as anyone can remember. Issei admitted to himself. The old man took me in when mom and dad died and he's done his absolute best to try and put up with it, but I just keep pushing him didn't I, and now I'm sitting here whining and complaining, acting like it's his fault. I know I'm to blame for all this crap, but I can't help it, I just get so angry and my mind is always running at 100 miles an hour. It's like there's this force inside me that's building all the damn time, and if I don't let it out I'll exploded. Ah. Issei cried out before realizing what he was doing. Did I just roar? Out loud. Ugh, what the hell is wrong with me? Issei quickly, violently shook his head. I gotta get something to eat. Issei was just about to take off back the way he came when he noticed a strange object beginning to drift down from above. A 6-inch long black crow-like feather that a curious Issei quickly plucked out of the sky. What? Issei slowly looked up to where the feather had fallen from and his eyes quickly went wide. Well, what do we have here? Issei was just about to take off back the way he came when he noticed a strange object beginning to drift down from above. A 6-inch long black crow-like feather that a curious Issei quickly plucked out of the sky. What? Issei slowly looked up to where the feather had fallen from and his eyes quickly went wide. Well, what do we have here? A woman dressed in black leather bikini with long black hair and magenta eyes reminiscent of Yuma's, but with a twisted face and most notable of all, a massive pair of black feathery wings, sat on top of the traffic light before using her massive wings to slowly drift down and land in front of Issei, who was currently too confused and frightened to run away. Issei Haidu, you know it's really helpful that you decided to show up in Kuoh when you did. Now I can kill two birds with one stone, and I mean that both figuratively and very literally. What the hell, the stunned silent Issei thought to himself. Who is this freak and why do I feel like I know her from somewhere? I'd be fine labeling her as some kind of pervy cosplayer, but she totally just flew down from the top of that traffic light. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I know I gotta find some way out of this situation. Come on body fight or flight, we gotta do something. Issei's knees buckled and wobbled and it was clear he wasn't gonna be able to run. Crap, why aren't my legs working? It's got something to do with this freaky girl, it's like her very presence isn't letting me run. Well body, you made this call. I normally can't justify beating on girls, but for freaky black-winged perverts, I'll make an exception. Issei slowly slid his legs into a battle stance and raised his fists out in front of him like a boxer, which caused the dark-haired stranger to burst out laughing. PFFFT. Ha 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 ha. Her face turned ugly and twisted as she let out a sinister laugh. Ha ha ha, what? You wanna fight? A pathetic human like you wants to fight with one of God's mightiest creations. This should be fun. Shut up crazy. Issei cried out as he let fly a left hook fly that the strange creature dodged by simply flying back, causing Issei to punch air. Crazy? That's rich coming from you. The raven-winged woman taunted as she took off and began to fly circles around Issei. Don't act like I didn't just catch you screaming at yourself. Okay, so I wasn't just seeing things earlier. She can fly, that rules out cosplay. Issei thought as his eyes tried their best to keep up with and track the soaring girl. At least when she's up there in the air she can't attack me. Even if she is some kind of monster she's still just a girl, if I can predict where she might attack from I'll be able to counter, and if she's light enough for those wings to carry her, then 1 or 2 solid blows should be enough to ground her. Look at you trying to follow me with your pathetic mortal eyes like you have any chance of coming out of this alive. Try to understand, you're gonna die tonight. The winged woman raised her hand to the sky and a jagged spear of red light materialized from thin air which she proceeded to throw down at her target. Issei, seeing the spear coming, just barely managed to leap out of the way, but in doing so, Issei sent his very human body tumbling across the concrete before the spear disappeared. Ahhhh. Issei winced as the rough concrete had absolutely shredded his skin in some places. Damn it. She can make magic spears too. Who the hell are you? What are you? Who am I? Have you forgotten me already? You're making poor Yuma so sad. The psycho girl said as she descended from above, making her face look like Yuma's once again as she continued to taunt Issei. Wait, you're that girl from the bridge? Is that why you're trying to kill me cause I blew you off? Issei argued back as he kept his eyes locked on Yuma, not willing to make any moves until she did. No, not quite. I'm here to eliminate you because my superiors have dubbed you a potential threat. The fact that you're a total jerk is just icing on this cake. She exclaimed as she created 2 more magic spears and let one fly, aimed directly at Issei's forehead. Whoa. Issei desperately tried to avoid the glowing weapon by moving his head out of the way, though the spear still managed to catch Issei's cheek, creating a small but bloody gash on the side of his face. But as Issei was busy avoiding the first spear, he hadn't noticed that Yuma had already thrown the second one. Aye. Issei roared out in pain as the spear pierced straight through his foot and caused him to fall to his knee and grabbed hold of his punctured foot. God damn it. He roared as the pain brought tears to his eyes, though he refused to let them fall. What the hell is this? It's like being stabbed by a 1000-degree iron rod, this shitting burns. Issei looked up to find Rainer standing above him holding yet another spear and shooting him a sinister grin that made the boy's eyes go wide as he came to a realization. No way, I'm really going to die here. Some black-winged angel is gonna murder me here in cold blood and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't win this fight, no. It was never even a fight to begin with, was it? She's just been playing with me from the very start. She coulda killed me this whole time, but now she's actually gonna do it. No. I don't wanna die. Someone help. I need to do something. There's gotta be something I can do to stop this. Please, if anyone's out there, I'll do anything. I want to live. As Issei's mind continued to run, he didn't notice as his eyes became red like rubies and his left forearm began to glow with a bright red light. Huh? Issei muttered as he looked over at his arm. Oh no. This is bad. Yuma exclaimed with a frightened tone before another sinister grin formed on her face. At least it would have been maybe a minute ago. She declared as she thrusted her spear through Issei's chest, getting the boy's expression to turn blank and stopping the glow. Too bad for you, Issei, so close, but your efforts in the end were wasted. Hack. Issei groaned as his mouth began to fill with blood, but still he managed to look up at his attacker one last time, even though saying his vision was blurred at this point would be an understatement. Oh wow, not only are you still alive somehow, but you're also still conscious even with that hole I put in your chest. I must say that's impressive, especially for a puny little human like you. She gave Issei props before summoning another red spear. You'd probably bleed out if I just left you here, but I want to be thorough, this one's going through your skull. The only thing Issei could do was look up and watch as Yuma prepared to finally finish things, but before she could deliver the killing blow, a surge of black and red energy slammed into the dark-winged woman's side and sent her flying in the opposite direction. Wah. Uuff. She grunted as she hit the ground. When she recovered, she immediately scanned the area but couldn't find anything other than the bleeding out Issei. Damn it, where did that attack come from? I shouldn't have let myself get carried away in enemy territory. I've come too far to have my plans end here. I'm done for today. She declared before taking off and disappearing into the night sky. But Yuma gone, you'd think Issei'd be safe, but unfortunately her earlier attack resulted in a sizable pool of blood forming around Issei, and eventually this resulted in Issei collapsing, and that's when everything went black. Later. Wah. Issei roared as he quickly sat up in his bed. He wasn't wearing a shirt at the time, and for the first time we got to see Issei's bare torso. He was notably muscular but not particularly bulky, with well-defined abs, pecs and biceps that would normally be hidden under his clothes. Another noticeable difference was a small pink scar on his cheek from where Yuma had cut him earlier. Issei immediately began to pat the area on his chest where he'd been stabbed but found no trace. Huh? I'm alive. Issei's head swiveled around and he took notice of the familiar environment. I'm pretty sure this is my room, in my house. Was it some sort of freaky dream? It didn't feel like a dream. Issei pulled off the rest of the covers to find he was also not wearing any pants. Okay, I don't usually sleep naked, so something weird is definitely going on. Did I get wasted last night? Issei then looked over to his left to find another odd lump in the blankets next to him. I don't like how person-shaped that lump is. Issei nervously began pulling the blankets and sheets away and revealed pale white flesh like porcelain and familiar crimson red hair. Wah. Issei let out a high-pitched shriek before throwing the sheets back. That's a girl. Issei cried out before grabbing a pillow to cover his crotch and leaping from off the bed. A girl? What the hell is she doing at my house? In my bed, and why is she naked? Thoughts began flooding the young man's mind as his face quickly turned pink. Did we? I mean, we were in bed together, so we might have. But why can't I remember? Did she drug me? I mean, she wouldn't have to. No. Issei quickly shook such thoughts out of his head. No, Issei, that's dirty. She's a trespasser. I'm gonna integrate her. When she wakes up, Issei decided before the woman in the blankets began to stir. AHH. She's waking up. He shrieked out loud. Huh? She mumbled as she sat up and began to rub the sleep from her eyes, completely exposing her bare breasts for anyone to see. Why? Issei shrieked before quickly covering his eyes with one hand while keeping the pillow over his crotch with the other. Yai. What are you doing? He cried out in a high-pitched voice. Oh, there you are. she said calmly as she finished rubbing her eyes, still not making any effort to cover herself. Up in a tem already? Even after what you suffered through last night, you really are a tough one, huh? Who are you? Why are you in my house? The embarrassed Issei muttered out softly. Hey, are you still naked? Yes, I'm still naked. She answered with an amused chuckle before standing up and stretching her back out. Have I really not introduced myself yet? How rude of me. I'm Rias Gremory, it's a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, cool, why are you in my house? Issei cried out as he fought off every temptation to open his eyes. Issei Haidu, you know it's rude to have a conversation with someone and not look them in the eyes. She teased as she slipped on a pair of black panties. I heard about you from Sonia, and I'd never expect you to be the type to get embarrassed in front of girls. It's not all girls. Just when they are, you know. Lacking clothing, Issei's face turned an even darker red before he lost his cool. Could you please just put something on? Fine, fine. If you insist. She replied playfully as she slipped a bra on past her shoulders. Oh. Hey, do you think you can help me with this? Help you with? Issei, thinking he was safe, removed his hand from his eye, and once he did it, a small stream of blood began to flow from nose. Rias had her back turned to the young man with her bra undone. Yeah, sure. Issei slowly, hesitantly helped Rias out with her issue, but was still hesitant to change subjects. So why exactly are you in my house? Isn't it obvious? After what went down last night, you were in pretty rough shape, technically you were dead, so I had to spend the whole night healing. With her bra fastened in the back, Rias did a quick adjustment to get her massive breasts into their proper places. Oh, thank you. Dead? Issei muttered to himself before dropping to his bed. He was so distraught that he let the pillow covering himself drop. I was dead. Yeah, but only for a little bit, so it's fine. Rias explained as a glowing red circle decorated with strange markings appeared below the girl's feet, and in a red flash her school uniform suddenly appeared. She then looked over at Issei to find his gaze unfocused, and his face went completely pale. Oh, Issei. Are you alright? It was all real. All that shit with Yuma. She's really a monster. And she killed me. Issei buried his face in his hands, but quickly raised his head as something seemed to have dawned on him. Wait, you said you healed me? That means you brought me back to life, and you just made the floor turn red and poofed your clothes on. Are you some kind of monster too, like a witch or something? Issei's expression turned dark as he tried to slide back on his bed, away from Rias. Hey. Rias grabbed hold of the frightened Issei's hands as she tried to comfort him. Look, Issei, there's a lot we have to talk about, so I want to stop by the Occult Research Club after school today, and I promise to give you a detailed explanation. Huh? Issei looked back up at the red-haired girl and raised an eyebrow. The Occult Research Club. Later. The FFFTTT Occult Research Club, yeah right. Issei marched down the city streets of urban Kuoh in the middle of the day, dressed in his casual wear. I've had enough of this place. I swear if I see another black and white school uniform I'll go insane. But what exactly am I gonna do? Skipping school for one day doesn't exactly solve the problem, but I needed to get out of that house, and I could go to school. I don't care if she brought me back to life or whatever. I can't trust her if she's another monster like Yuma. Issei, still searching for an answer, pulled out his smartphone and found the "How was your first day" text from his grandfather still unread. Well, he's not gonna be any help, he wouldn't believe a word of this, since I don't have any proof. The same goes for the police, I'm willing to bet. Issei let out a defeated sigh and continued his lonely march down the empty road. I just need some time, a day to clear my head and figure something out. In the meantime I need to find a way to distract myself. Maybe I'll hit up the arcade or something. Nah, ditching school to kill time at the arcade, that's the delinquent in me talking. Maybe if I hurry I can catch my afternoon classes. I think today's block is supposed to include chemistry, which sounds fun. Grumbly. Issei's thoughts were interrupted by a roar from his belly. Oh, yeah, I still haven't eaten. Probably a good idea to figure out the whole grocery store situation, and I should really stock up on cans, cause I'm honestly contemplating never leaving my house again. Issei thought as he did a quick search on his phone. There we go. There's one between here and my house. Later. Issei, having set course for the grocery store, he found himself walking alone in a suburban area with not a single person sharing his sidewalk. The eerily familiar setting had Issei walking stiffly like a robot with a face white as a ghost. What the hell is wrong with this place? Does nobody leave their damn houses? Not that I blame them, with half-naked, spear-throwing, flying monsters and perverted red-haired necromancers prowling the streets. I don't blame them. It's my own damn fault for thinking it was ever okay for me to step foot outside my front door again. I shoulda just ordered my groceries online like a normal 21st century person would've. Oh, but I keep forgetting I was sent to live in this hick mountain town that stuck 20 years in the past. As Issei's mind continued to race, his fear turned into anger, and soon he was gritting his teeth. Issei's frustration was quickly elevated as he noticed something over at the end of the block. Oh, thank God, another person. Issei let out a mental sigh of relief as he saw a massive figure standing at the end of the block, wearing a large hat and a trench coat that completely covered his body. Isn't it a bit hot for that outfit? I guess I shouldn't be the one to talk. I'm wearing a hoodie to walk around in the middle of the day. Issei just kept on walking, feeling a little better having seen another person about, but that feeling was about to change. Hey devil. The cloaked man called out as Issei walked past him. What? Issei stopped dead in his tracks a few feet in front of the stranger, but didn't bother to turn to face him. Did this guy just call me a devil? Is that supposed to be some mountain town insult? Is this jerk really trying to pick a fight with me? Issei cracked his knuckles before turning around. I don't care if this guy is country strong or corn-fed or whatever these dumb hicks wanna call it, if he wants a fist fight it's so ooh. Issei's pupils shrink as he turns to find a pair of pitch-black wings sprouting from the back of the cloaked man. Oh shit. It's pretty ballsy for a low-class, reincarnated, piece of shit devil to just walk right up to me in broad daylight. Ballsy but also pretty damn stupid. The man created a blue spear similar to Yuma's from before. Huh. Wait, I know you. You're the target. Rainer was supposed to kill you yesterday and now you've joined up with the devils. Oh well, this is a simple enough fix, I'll just kill you myself. Issei gritted his teeth upon hearing this. This guy's gonna kill me. Like Yuma did yesterday. No goddammit. Yesterday I was in over my head, but now I know full well what a monster like this can do, and I don't know if it's cause I just lost it or what, but more so than being scared. This whole thing is really starting to piss me off. Issei shot the black-winged angel a violent glare. If I go down I'm going down swinging. Oh really? A deep booming voice rang through Issei's head. Huh? Who was that? Issei's mind was quickly taken elsewhere by the strange voice as the cloaked monster spread his wings. If you trust me, I can help you. What do you say? Trust you? Help me? What do you mean? What are you? A skeptic. Maybe a quick demonstration would be helpful. Let's see how you like this. The angel prepared to throw his spear, but before he could, Issei's left arm was once again consumed by a red light, but only for a second, before his arm morphed and changed into a metallic red gauntlet with golden blades protruding down the forearm, crimson claws covering the fingers and a massive dark green gem on top of the hand. Behold the legendary boosted gear. Boost. The emerald gem on the hand glowed with a green light as a booming voice echoed from it. Boosted gear. What the hell is this thing? Why do I feel so light? What am I supposed to do with this? It's a giant red fist. What do you think you do with it? Punch the guy. I'm pretty sure I have absolutely zero clue about just what's really going on, but I'm pretty good at punching crap and these guys are asking for it. I'll ask questions later. Issei planted his feet and his gauntlet let out another boost. Before he leapt into the air after the trenchcoat guy, the concrete sidewalk cracked from where he leapt off from. Hey asshole. You said you were gonna kill me, right? An easy fix, right? I'd like to see you try. Damn it. I know that sacred gear. This can't be right. The cloaked angel muttered in shock before quickly managing to collect himself. Take this. He let fly his spear attempting to stop the incoming Issei. Nice try. Issei simply punched through the light constructed as he continued unimpeded towards his target. Now it's your turn to break, damn it. Whamp. A single blow to the jaw from Issei's new crimson knuckle was enough to knock the winged monster from the and send him plummeting to the ground. Issei followed after him, landing on his gauntlet with a one-handed handstand. Whoa. Issei, after having recovered from the adrenal rush that was the last few seconds, looked down and marveled at his new gauntlet. I don't know what this thing is, but that's fine by me cause it's awesome. That's an appropriate response, young man, but I wouldn't be celebrating just yet. The bastard who threatened your life, our life, is still breathing. Oh yeah. Issei looked over his shoulder to confirm that his foe was in fact still breathing and his body was still twitching. You're right. A fist fight would be one thing, but this guy did call me out thinking he could end my life, and he's gonna pay for that boost. For those of you unaware, Red Dragon's Power. Boosted is one of my most popular stories. That story drew the attention of readers that still follow me today, and writers on here that I still talk to, and some I should talk to more often, so needless to say that story is important to me, but unfortunately it's a story that I never see myself being able to continue, and I'm here to explain exactly. Before I get into why I discontinued that story, I'm going to talk about why it's connected to this current story. First of all, this is not a reboot of my reboosted story. Rather, it's a reboot of my notably less popular first attempt at a DxD story titled Red Dragon's Power, and in that story, the only deviation from canon was that Issei started off being able to use Balance Breaker, so I understand why it never reached the heights of its equal series. I'm also not here to try and defend the choices I made for this story or to tell you that this new story is any better or you should like it more. If you don't like the choices I made and prefer the direction I took in Boosted, I can't really be too offended cause I wrote both stories, meaning you at least liked my writing to some extent, so thank you. Back to why I decided to end my most popular story. Well, I think fans of that story can admit while the start was strong, it was losing steam by the end, especially after the confrontation with Rias, and the reason for this is the very same reason for a good majority of its popularity, and that's its premise. Issei not being turned into a devil or not being a part of Rias' peerage or is very intriguing because it's not one we see too often, at least not presented in an overly dramatic fashion, and that's what the goal for Boosted was. I wanted to be able to present Issei as likable and write a story that's light-hearted where Issei can be free to do his own thing, but eventually the chapters grew formulaic and the characters, especially Issei's, motivations began feeling increasingly shallow and at some points non-existent. In that story, Issei was a battle maniac with a tragic past and trust issues, but could still make jokes and didn't always take himself 100% seriously. The point of that story was to teach Issei that battle mania was bad and he was dealing with the loss of his parents in an unhealthy way. In the story, he had a powered-up state that is brought on by pure rage called dominating fury, and the end goal was to evolve it to a state powered by love for his friends, but I eventually realized taking him down this path was robbing him of any motivation whatsoever. And it became a chore to write him. The reason it connects to the premise as an issue is because he quickly ran out of reasons to be in the story other than wanting to fight the likes of Kakabule or eventually Vali. He didn't have any particular connections with the rest of cast permanently placed in Kuoh other than a friendship, and I guess we could say school, but why would the wielder of one existence's most powerful weapons he in high school? Well, if Issei doesn't need to be in Kuoh, then let him go somewhere else. The issue with that is the world seems to revolve around Kuoh with heavy hitters, and some of my personal favorites like Vali, Azazel, and eventually Cao and Serg, seemingly orbiting around Rias' group, moving him away from them, would miss us out on so many cool moments and encounters plus Asia. Haneko and Rias are characters I really enjoy writing in my stories, plus without the harem is it really TXT. A more talented writer can, and a few of them have. Check out my old friend NOSFERATU869's Lone Dragon Emperor for an interesting and intriguing take on the concept, make it so their story can incorporate all these elements and more into a cohesive narrative, but I'm still improving, I hope. I won't act like I didn't make my own terrible decisions that helped ruin the story, at least for me. If y'all still like it, then I'm glad. In fact, having Issei make Rainer a serious girlfriend early on in the story, only to break them up 3 or 4 chapters later, and then go back to being friends, is some of the absolute worst writing I've ever done. But there's a reason I've been shy about revisiting this particular topic, and there's a reason that unfortunately I'm not ever going to be able to finish that story. Now, I haven't given up on this premise entirely. In fact, if you want to give my life of a free pawn story a read, you may find some similarities. Though I've found myself stuck on how to continue that story as well, but it will continue eventually, and don't be too surprised if a year or 2 from now I come out with a Red Dragon's Power over Boosted, but for now it's an idea I struggle finding ways to move forward on, and I feel like I owed all you readers explanation, and I hope there's a little more closure now. For the last little bit of this, I decided to address a topic from last time, that being the characters who will be presented in this story, and so I compiled a small list of the confirmed ones so far, along with a little description on what's up with who, so enjoy. Issei, if you haven't figured out yet, then I'm a terrible writer. Issei is a rude thug, at least on the surface, who is for whatever reason compelled to violence by an unknown force. Hidden under his tough guy layer, Issei is a gifted student with a love for all different fields of academics, and quite shy and slightly prudish, as he gets overly flustered by almost any erotic encounter. Rias is just herself taken a little bit further in certain regards. For an example, rather than just being a Japanophile, she's a straight-up weeb. Drake is more chaotic and violent in this series, with an enormous sense of pride in himself and Issei. He revels in the bloodshed of enemies and can occasionally act as the devil on Issei's shoulders. In a candle-lit room, 4 high school students sat quietly as they passed the time. A handsome young man with blonde hair sat across from a tiny girl with a black cat-shaped clip in her white hair. Pushing around a cart carrying tea and snacks was a beautiful young woman with a curvaceous body and long black hair tied up in a ponytail, and sitting by herself, reading a book at a large important-looking desk, was none other than Rias herself. "Quiet night, huh?" the black-haired girl said with a smile as she passed by Rias' desk and began to pour her a cup of hot tea. Weren't we supposed to be getting a new club member? Showing up late on his first day, not the best way to make a good first impression. That's true, Rias smirked as she took a sip of the fresh cup of tea. But I don't think he'll keep us waiting much longer. Almost on cue, wham. The door to the old school building that housed the club was slammed open, and Issei came marching in with his left arm. Hey. I got something I want to talk about. Well, good afternoon, Issei. It's nice of you to finally show up, Rias coyly greeted the spiky-haired boy. You've had an interesting day, haven't you? Wait, how did you hold up? Issei roared out as he refocused himself. I'm not here to chit-chat. I've got something important going on and I need answers. This is the only place I could think of to come to. That's some good intuition you have there, Issei, you've come to the right place. Rias said with a confident smile. I'd be more than happy to answer any question you have, but first things first, there's something more urgent I need to discuss with you first, so please have a seat. Are you sure? I have the feeling that what I've got is pretty important. Issei glanced down at his left arm, which was still hidden in his hoodie pocket. Issei then, with a shrug of his shoulders, he took a seat next to the handsome blonde. He shot the extremely pretty boy a glare, expecting him to scoot over or vacate the bench entirely, but he responded with a friendly smile that served to frustrate Issei. The dark-haired boy took a look around the classroom and seemed to take notice of the three members aside from Rias for the first time. Whoa, is this club like pretty people only? Like those big chain restaurants that openly only hire hot chicks but still don't manage to get sued by the rejects somehow? Alright, Issei, so there's something I know about your resurrection that I didn't tell you this morning. The reason for that being is that it's pretty complicated and I needed to make sure it's something you'd be capable of believing. You'd be surprised by the human mind's capacity for rejecting the supernatural, but after these last 2 days you shouldn't have any trouble accepting the reality of things. Rias said seriously, but she was right, whatever story she had to say would be ready for it. Well, you got me here. No more secrets. I can handle it. Issei's eyes narrowed with intensity. Okay, I won't go easy on you then. Everyone in this room, that includes you, are devils. Rias declared, and to add truth and emphasis to her statement, all the club members stood up, then the four of them each sprouted an identical-looking pair of bat wings. Technically, I'm the only true devil here. You, along with Kiba, Kaneko and Akeno here, are what is known as a reincarnated devil. I assume you can gather from the name what that means. The devil, huh? Issei muttered to himself before looking at his back. You probably want to stand up before you do the wing thing. The blonde boy Kiba bestowed some advice along with a quick attention-grabbing jab from his elbow. Furniture here is kinda expensive. Oh, yeah. No problem. Issei stood up and took a half-step forward to make sure he was a safe distance away before resuming. Ahem. A devil, huh? Issei took a glance at his back, and then, just like with the others before, a massive pair of bat wings sprouted from his back. No way. Issei remained calm on the surface, but inside was an entirely different story. I did have this strange feeling this morning that never really went away, and it's hard hearing that I'm not human anymore, but what's really weighing on me right now is that I'm pretty sure I'm never actually gonna use these wings to fly. The whole room was silent as Issei spent a few moments lightly flapping his wings a bit before speaking up again. That guy from earlier called me a devil, I guess I should have taken that more seriously. It's gonna be weird trying to accept that I'm not human anymore, but I'd definitely rather be this than be dead, so thank you. You're perfectly welcome. I'm glad to see you're taking the news pretty well. Rias smiled at this pleasant development. Yeah, well, I don't usually like to give the old man credit, but there is one thing he said to me that's proved to be true, no matter where I go. Nothing in this world comes free. Issei, having retracted his wings, sat back down on the couch. Glad to hear you think like that, because there's one more thing I need to tell you about, and honestly it's probably the most important thing. Ria's face turned a bit red as she nervously pressed her fingers together. I may have kinda accidentally turned you into my eternal immortal servant without your permission. Huh? Issei muttered as he tried to decipher Ria's word vomit. But the state I found you in, this was the only way for me to keep you from dying. My healing magic alone wasn't strong enough to repair that level of damage. I planned to ask your permission, but if I didn't act when I did, I would have never gotten the chance. Rias explained very quickly, each word like another bullet to Issei's mind. I apologize for acting without your consent, but considering the alternative, I believe I made the objectively right call. Okay, slow down and let me process this. Issei lifted his right hand and quieted the room. So the process that brought me back to life only works by turning me into a devil servant. And I'm supposed to believe all that to be true? That this was the only alternative and you acted completely selflessly with no ulterior motives whatsoever? Come on, I'm not stupid. Issei shot one of his signature nasty looks at the red-haired girl. I never said my actions were selfless, I'm a devil, we don't act selflessly. I said what I did was the right call. Are you saying that this is a fate worse than death, because technically the process is reversible, but it will put you into the same state you were before I revived you? Rias responded with an equally powerful and serious look of her own. Ha! So that's it. Either I'm dead or I'm a slave. Issei put his head into his right palm as he processed it. Trust me, you're making it sound a lot worse than it actually is. Kiba added, placing a supportive hand on Issei's shoulder. If you had to pick a devil to serve, Rias should be at the top of her list. You should know by her affectionate display this morning that she has a habit of pampering her servants. The dark-haired Akeno chimed in as well, but neither comment seemed to lift Issei's spirits. I use the term servant because technically that's what it's called, but I never said slave. To me, Akeno, Kaneko, Kiba and now you, I see you all as family and plan to treat you as such. Rias tried her best as well to lift the boy's sunken spirits, but to no avail. Fine, if this is a situation you absolutely can't accept this situation, then I have no use for a servant that's being held here against their will, so if you'd like to leave, then I won't stop you, nor will I try and pursue you. Rias relented, getting Issei to raise his head. I'd like to remind you of what you just told me, nothing in this world comes free. I'd also like to inform you that the items I used to resurrect you are an enormous investment and far from easy to replace. I'd also like to inform you that while I swear not to pursue you personally, other devils like won't let this stand as it would reflect poorly on the master-servant system we've come to rely on, and it's like you'll be violently pursued to the very ends of the earth, but like I said, if you're fine with all this then you're free to go. Issei went completely silent as he studied Ria's face for any traces of dishonesty. Either she's the greatest liar on earth or she's being serious, either way I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. Issei stood up and immediately upon doing so Ria's expression darkened and a swift punch of guiltiness hit him in the gut. Come on Issei. She already took your humanity, you can't be feeling guilty now. If you stay that's it, you're a servant, it doesn't matter how much they want to sugarcoat it. It doesn't matter how much she might have given up. It shouldn't matter to me that she saved my life. This is the only reasonable course of action. Right. What about you? Issei pointed a finger at petite Kaneko who reacted as if she hadn't been paying attention this entire time. Everyone else here has already tried to. The young girl just sort of stared blankly at Issei for a moment, but then the girl of few words spoke up. Rias is pretty cool. Life kinda sucked for me before I met her, but now things are pretty okay. You could be doing a lot worse Thuggo, trust me. Issei muttered, still not sure of what his final decision should be, but he came up with one anyone. Well, it's not like I have anywhere else to go. Granddad sent me here cause nobody else would take me, so I guess I have no choice. He shut his eyes as he nonchalantly leaned back in his seat. Yeah, guess not. Rias smiled to herself. Alright everyone. You heard him, we have a new club member. That means it's time to celebrate. Club member? Wait, I never. Issei tried to interject, but at this point it was no use. I'll go get the cake. Akeno exclaimed as she pushed her tea cart down a connected hallway. See cake? Issei muttered as it quickly became all too obvious that he was approaching an entire 24 hours since the quest for food that sparked the events up until now had begun. I guess I could stay for cake. But before that, there's something you wanted to talk to us about. Rias reminded the starving young boy. Oh yeah. Issei stood up and began to slip his arm out of his jacket, but quickly got cold feet after taking a quick glance around the room. I think it'd be better to take this outside. Outside? The club moved together to a small wooded area in the school courtyard, and Issei finally unveiled his sacred gear to the group, along with a small demonstration as he punched the bark of a nearby tree and made the entire towering plant fall over, landing with a loud crash. So this thing kinda just showed up on my hand, and I don't really know what it does, and I don't know how to turn it off. Boost. The gauntlet went off with a flash. Oh yeah, sometimes it does that too, but other than that it's pretty cool. Let me see that. Rias quickly, excitedly walked over and grabbed hold of Issei's gauntlet and quickly began to examine it. I knew you'd have one, but could this really be? The curious red hand began pushing and pulling Issei's arm into uncomfortable positions as she continued her examination. Boost. You. No way. She practically shrieked out in excitement. Do you know what this is? No, that's why I asked you. Issei growled as he ripped his arm away before stretching it out for a moment. Well, how do I explain it? Rias paused and scratched her chin for a moment before beginning a long spiel. So we're devils, right, and you're more than familiar with the fallen angels at this point, but that's not where the world beyond humans ends, far from it. Monster, spirits, angels, gods and even dragon exist somewhere in this world or another. From there, it's pretty easy to see where humans stand as far as power is concerned. In order to level the playing time, the God of the Bible gave a few special humans certain sacred powerful items and artifacts as a means of protecting them. We call those items sacred gears, and that's what you currently have on your arm. A super-powered artifact, huh? Issei marveled at his crimson gauntlet for a moment before turning to Rias and saying. I already knew that. Figured that part out almost immediately. I was kinda hoping for more specifics like how do I turn it off and why was it talking to me before. Well, if you'd let me finish. I was getting to the specifics. Rias said in a huff. Oh, and to turn it off, I'm pretty sure you just have to imagine your hand going back to normal. Come on, that can't be, oh. Issei muttered as his hand returned to its normal state. Huh. It worked. Issei then spent the next few moments making the gauntlet appear and disappear back and forth. Ahem. Rias faked clearing her throat to make Issei pay attention before continuing. Your particular sacred gear is one of a kind, named Boosted Gear, and draws its power from the trapped Welsh dragon. Its ability infinitely increases its user's power in its base form, like it is now. Your power boosts come at intervals of around 10 seconds. Ha. Sweet. That power's totally broken, so broken in fact that I bet it's going to work really inconsistently from here on out. Issei exclaimed enthusiastically as he thrusted his gauntlet into the air where it let out another boost. You know, Issei, over the years a certain title has been given to the dragon that powers the boosted gear that's shared with its wielder. So don't be surprised if you're referred to as the Red Dragon Emperor going forward. Rias smirked as Issei began to smile proudly. Red Dragon Emperor, huh? That name definitely suits a badass like me. Issei stood tall with his chest puffed out. Spoiler alert, it's not a compliment. The quick-witted Kaneko spat back. Huh? Well, compliment or not, they don't call someone an emperor if they're a wimp. Issei continued with his smirky confidence. It's nice to know that even in a world of devils and angels and shit, I'm still a guy nobody wants to mess with. It's true that you're indeed strong and have the potential to be someone truly great, but don't think you're at the top yet. In this world that kind of ignorance can be deadly. Rias said with a smirk of her own, and then to add emphasis, with a mere flick of her wrist, Rias unleashed a spark of crimson magic that completely vaporized the tree Issei had knocked over in less than an instant. I told you how your powers work. Remember, the boosted gear multiplies your base power, so the best way to strengthen the boosted gear is to strengthen your base. You may have been an impressive physical specimen for a human, but compared to the heights you'll be able to reach as a devil. Let's just say you have a long way to go, but if you commit yourself and work hard, I can promise you the rewards will be more than worth it. Alright then. Issei closed his gauntlet grip and a genuine smile formed on his face. Then I have a proposition for you. This whole servant thing still hasn't been sitting well with me no matter how good it might be. I don't like it, so I have a proposition for you. Rather than being your servant, I propose a partnership. I'll stick around and let you call the shots, but only on the condition that you help teach me to use these powers and help me get stronger, and the second you can't help me get stronger, I'm outta here without a second thought. Sound fair? That works for me. It's a deal. Rias agreed, sticking her hand out, and with a smirk Issei took it and they shook. Alright, just so you know, I'm not calling you master. Get that? Issei declared, immediately turning away from the red-haired girl. Think of this as a business venture, so from now on I'm gonna call you boss. Issei decided as he placed his hands in his pocket and prepared to leave. I'm not gonna lie, I've got high hopes for this devil thing. Don't disappoint me. Next day, after school. Click. 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 Issei worked tirelessly as he stapled flyers to various lampposts and street signs. Consider me disappointed. I guess I can consider this my punishment for acting like a big shot yesterday, but is this really devil work? Issei groaned in his head as he moved on to the next lamppost. I may have just been reborn yesterday, but I bet I could handle those higher level jobs. Actually, that desire-granting crap Rias was talking about earlier sounds kinda creepy, so may stapling flyers is good for now. Issei continued working until he found himself out of flyers and now in some sort of city park. Kuoh. Done for the day. Issei wiped non-existent sweat from his brow. Grumbly. Issei's stomach screamed at him. Ugh, I can't believe I rushed off yesterday and skipped out on the cake. Am I a moron? Well, that's it. No more. Issei clenched his fist as he gathered his resolve. Today's the day, I'm finally gonna do it. No fallen angel thing or any of Ria's bullshit is gonna stand in the way of me finally tracking down that grocery store. Issei closed his eyes as he prepared to proudly march forward. Look out, grocery store, here I come and I'm shopping hungry. Issei took a powerful step forward, but when time came for the next one, smack. The intentionally blinded Issei ran into a mysterious object and the collision knocked him on his ass. Hog. Damn it. Issei gritted his teeth. Okay, what did I hit? Issei opened his eyes to find a pair of white panties sticking out directly in front of his face, causing a small stream of blood to flow from his nose. Aw, crap, wait for me. Grocery store. Issei silently called out to the universe before falling backwards as the blood continued to flow. Issei took a powerful step forward, but when time came for the next one, smack. The intentionally blinded Issei ran into a mysterious object and the collision knocked him on his ass. Hog. Damn it. Issei gritted his teeth. Okay, what did I hit? Issei opened his eyes to find a pair of white panties sticking out directly in front of his face, causing a small stream of blood to flow from his nose. Issei quickly wiped his nose and shook any indecent thoughts from his head. Issei stood up, dusted himself and put on his mean face. Didn't anybody ever teach you to watch where you're going? You're lucky you got me on good day today, I'm not the type of guy you wanna bump into. Issei declared in a threatening tone, but when he looked back at the exposed young lady, he wasn't met with the reaction he expected. Huh? Ah. I can't see. She groaned as her long dark robes had been flipped up over her head and she was somehow struggling to stand up. Seriously? Issei couldn't help but mutter aloud. This is no longer why, it's just pitiful at this point. Issei let out a short sigh before moving in to help the blinded girl. Alright, I'm going to help you. So don't go pressing charges, my lawyer's better than yours. Issei declared as he grabbed the rim of the girl's dress from down by her head and pulled it back over her butt, freeing a full head of long blonde hair, along with a pair of shining aqua green eyes. You alright? Issei offered the young blonde. Thank you. She muttered as she delicately guided back to her feet. You speak Italian? Italian? No. Issei took a closer look at the girl's face and realized she must be a foreigner. Yep, totally. I'm fluent. Hey, is this yours? Issei bent down and picked up a white piece of cloth off the ground and held out to the girl. She didn't move to take it as she seemed busy analyzing Issei from head to toe. Look, I'm trying to be somewhere, so could you get done with whatever it is you're doing? Wonderful. The strange girl smiled as she grabbed hold of Issei's hands. You must be the answer to my prayers. Oh, God bless you. Issei winced. Yeah, I'm not too sure of that. Issei pushed the girl's arms away, returning the cloth in the process. He also managed to get a look at a necklace the young girl wore, sporting a small silver cross on it. That can't be good for me. Issei took a deep breath before stepping back away from the blonde. Well, glad we got you all situated, I've got places to be. Wait. She called out, getting Issei to very reluctantly stop. Well, you see, I'm a nun who has only very recently been sent to this town in Japan, where I can't speak the language or read any of the signs, and I seem to have gotten lost. Do you think you can help me find this town's church? Ah, fine. Issei gave in with a sigh as he pulled out his phone and began typing away. 21st century, but nobody has a smartphone for some reason, he grumbled before handing his phone over. Here you go, I mapped it out for you, I even set the language to Italian. Oh, thank you. As the nun began swiping and poking at the phone screen, and slowly her expression turned more and more worrisome and her movements became more panicky. Let me guess, Issei groaned as he snatched the phone from the girl's hand before she could break it. You can't read a map in general, can you? No. She replied in an embarrassed manner. Ha. I guess there's no way around it, huh? Issei said with a shrug before turning and walking the opposite direction. Come on. He cried out. I guess I'll have to take you there myself. Later. The two teenagers had been walking for some time before Issei decided it was time to break the silence. So, you have a name, Blondie? Oh. Yes. My name is Asia Argento, but please just call me Asia. She answered loudly, clearly excited that the young man chose to start a conversation. What about you? You can call me Issei. He answered quickly as he thought. At least for today, I doubt I'll ever see this chick again. I'm pretty sure hanging with a nun can be bad for a devil's health. Besides, the cutesy type doesn't really do it for me. Issei. The frequently muttering Asia called out to the disgruntled thug. Thank you for helping me, you really have no idea how happy it makes me that I ran into you today, people aren't usually this nice to me. Is that right? Issei focused on that last part in particular, shooting back a puzzled look. She doesn't look like the type people wouldn't be nice to. If anything, you'd think there'd be tons of people, guys in particular, lining up to wait on a girl like this hand and foot, but unless she's just an incredible liar, which seems unlikely, then she's telling the truth, which would be odd, but it's none of my concern. Issei decided to drop this immediate subject and decided to tackle another one which had also been on his mind. So, whose bright idea was it to send a nun who can't read or speak Japanese here of all places? No offense, but I don't imagine the sermons being well received if no one can understand them. Yes, well, it's not that this place was chosen for me. It's more like I didn't have anywhere else to go. She said, doing her best to keep a smile on her face. Because of things I've done in the past, nowhere else would take me and I was sent here. You don't say, Issei muttered back, slowly growing more and more intrigued by the nun's odd origin. Well, doesn't that sound oddly familiar? Is she some kind of reformed thug? That's a look I wouldn't mind seeing. The two kept walking and small talking, Issei slowly but surely seeming to open up little by little and Asia just enjoying every moment of company she could. This continued until they came across a group of children, one of whom was holding a soccer ball, and they were all gathered around one kid who was sitting in the dirt with a bloody knee. Why Aya? The injured kid, a brown-haired boy, roared out at the top of his lungs as tears poured from his eyes. The loud sobbing quickly garnered the attention of the two passing teenagers. Ouch. That's rough-looking one, and to rub salt in the wound it happened in front of friends, so it's all the more embarrassing. Lem tell you, those are the worst at that age. Issei spoke out in an unusually empathic moment for the seasoned thug. Asia did say anything, she simply pushed through the crowd of children and went right for the boy's injured knee. Don't worry, it'll be better real soon. She said as a pair of emerald rings appeared on her fingers, one on each hand, and from them emanated a shimmering green light that cascaded itself over the boy's injury. Soon the wound magically began closing. No way. Is that a sacred gear? Issei put together in his head. I guess that would explain why she'd been treated poorly in the past. People have never been great when it comes to the way they treat people who are different, especially those who can do things the masses can't, and Asia especially. She's too gentle and nice for her own good, she probably comes across as a pretty easy target. Issei frowned slightly before turning his attention to the boy. Despite the wound healing, the boy continued to cry softly, his face was also red and puffy, and something about this particular scenario struck a chord of familiarity in Issei. Flashback. Sniff. Sniff. A teary-eyed, red-faced Issei with a big bloody bruise on his left cheek tried his best to calm himself, but for whatever reason he just couldn't stop the tears or the snot from flowing. Does it hurt? A beautiful woman with caramel brown eyes, her long brown hair tied back in a ponytail, asked in a very stern but still caring voice, gently dabbed his cheek with medicine. Well, serves you right, Issei. Picking fights. Seriously? Your father and I raised you way better than that. It's not my fault, Mom. They started it. The young Issei declared stubbornly before crossing his arms. His mom responded by increasing the pressure in which she applied the stinging medicine. www. It doesn't matter who started it, you shouldn't be fighting regardless. She scolded back, but Issei responded by pouting, which made his mother sigh. But if you insist on getting into fights, then you need to be tough, that means no more crying, you understand. Issei wiped his face clean before nodding in agreement. Now I want you to remember. End of flashback. Issei walked up to the still teary-eyed, injured boy before reciting what his mother had once told him. Hey kid, chin up. Little bit of advice, girls like tough guys. Issei put his hand on Asia's shoulder for emphasis, causing the blonde girl to blush from the casual contact. Then, by pointing his eyebrows, Issei signaled the young boy to the presence of a young girl his age amongst a crowd of children. Upon spotting the girl, the hurt young boy quickly sniffed before wiping his face clean, and thanks to Asia's healing, he managed to stand back up before quickly running over to rejoin the other kids, leaving Issei and Asia with a quick thank you as he disappeared in the group. That was nice of you, healing that kid. Issei gave the still red-faced blonde girl props. How? Oh that. Why you see. That was, The flustered Asia struggled to come up with an excuse, but at the same time was unwilling to lie. Don't worry about it. I don't need an explanation. Issei said with a friendly wave that managed to disarm Asia. Come on, the church is just a few more blocks this way. Issei pointed the way with his head, and Asia quickly began to follow him once again. Well, it's right up there. After a few more minutes of walking, the two had finally reached their destination, as Issei was able to point out the city church, which sat alone atop a hill surrounded by trees. Thank you so much for helping me, she said with a bow, looking up at the boy with a hopeful smile. Well, Issei, I was wondering if maybe you'd be willing to come and see me again sometime. Maybe. Issei didn't hesitate with his answer. I wouldn't count on it, see ya. He immediately turned away and began to walk off, leaving the blonde girl stunned behind him. Sorry Asia, you seem like a nice girl, but I'm willing to bet nuns shouldn't be hanging around with devils, and vice versa. Plus I'm in a hurry, I have to be back at the clubhouse before 6, so if I wanna hit up the grocery store I only have. Issei pulled out his smartphone and took a quick glance at his smartphone clock, and his face quickly turned grim. No. Grocery store. A few days later, outside the Occult Research Club. Zap. A bolt of lightning came crashing down from above, which Issei was forced to block with his boosted gear gauntlet. Gah. Issei grunted as the force of the yellow lightning made his feet slide back maybe an inch before a powerful backhand from his gauntlet destroyed the bolt. Boost. See, I told you the rook was a bad call. Akeno called out as she descended from above with a smile and her hand, sparking with more lightning. Strength and defense are great, but if you're fighting someone who can attack from range, it can be difficult to so much as get a hit in. In this situation, the knight or the bishop, or even going all out with the queen, would have been better choices for your promotion. Maybe boost. But the rook is more fun. Issei roared back as he ripped a tree out of the ground, roots and all, before throwing it up at Akeno. Nice try. Zap. Akeno called back as she destroyed the tree midair with a bolt of lightning. But I think you'd be better off learning some real magic as opposed to throwing trees at their opponents. And I told you that sounds like a real boring way to fight. What's the point if you're not putting fists to flesh? You ask me, laser blasts and fireballs should be relegated to finishing moves only. Issei replied stubbornly. Lightning bolts, evil swords, you can leave all that stuff to the other devils. Oh Issei, normally I find that naivety of yours utterly adorable, but in this case that kind of thinking can be dangerous. She called out as she let fly a wave of lightning strikes that Issei leapt and rolled to avoid. Do you remember the stray devil visor? Laser nips. Yeah, I remember. Boost. Issei answered as he punched a falling lightning bolt out of the sky. What about her? Amongst devils she'd be considered relatively weak, so what I'm getting at is that we'll likely face stronger opponents in the future, and we'll need you to be as strong as possible when that happens, and for a piece as versatile as the pawn I think limiting yourself to just one style of fighting may be a detriment. Akeno explained as she continued her bombardment. Look at these training matches we've been having, we're going on 7 days now, and you haven't been able to beat me once, even though we're both low-class devils, and you have the benefit of being the legendary Red Dragon Emperor. Akeno put both hands over her head and a massive ball of lightning. I'm just saying you shouldn't commit yourself to one fighting style, at least not until you're more comfortable as a devil. She said cheerfully as she launched her massive attack. Oh shit. Zop. The attack proved too large for Issei to block, and in his rook state, he was too slow to get out of the way and ended up taking the full force of the attack, forcing him to drop to the floor. Maybe, you're right. Issei groaned as a plume of smoke billowed out of his mouth. You know Issei training is great and all, but this is a little intense, especially for newcomers. Akeno said as she floated down next to the small patch of dirt Issei found himself struggling to get back in. If you'd like we could dial you back to a more reasonable workout plan. Hug. Issei groaned as he sat up. Are you kidding? No way would I want to try anything easier. Oh ho. Are you saying you enjoy this kind of punishment? Akeno's ears perked up as her face turned a little pink. I wouldn't phrase it like that. Issei answered as stretched out his back. Oh, Akeno responded with a disappointed mutter. It's just that everything in my life always seemed to come so easily, like with school and sports, I could perform at an exceptional level without ever really trying that hard, but that wasn't the case with fighting. Issei explained with an excited expression. I used to get beat up a lot when I was a kid, every time I picked a fight I'd get my ass kicked. Eventually I made my way to the top of the metaphorical mountain, but when I got there everything just got so boring. Now I'm back at the bottom of the ladder, so I'm more than willing to take a couple beatings early on cause I know it'll help me with the climb back up to the top, and that's really what's got me excited. Is that so? Well, if you feel this strongly then I guess from now on I'll stop holding back, she answered with another cheerful smile as sparks danced across her hand. Holding back? Issei muttered back before swallowing hard. But I think we're done for the day. Rias wanted to see you this evening, and if I keep you any longer then it'll just make her mad. Akeno stretched a hand out to help Issei to his feet. Yeah, we wouldn't want that, would we? Issei responded sarcastically, refusing Akeno's assistance and standing himself up. Though, I suppose it was about time. I'm sick of handing out flyers, but I still don't know why she feels it's necessary for her to tag along on my first job, it's not like I'm a kid or something. Well, Rias has always been a bit overprotective. But this case is special. Akeno added, getting Issei to raise an eyebrow. I think she's worried about your personality and how you may react to the clients. Really? Issei smiled at this revelation. Well, I'd say I'm flattered that my reputation precedes me, but I don't think Rias has anything to worry about. I can be a professional. Later, that night. Are you kidding me? Issei roared at the top of his lungs. Ugh. Couldn't even make it a minute, could he? Rias groaned as she buried her face in her hand. The two devils stood in a small apartment decorated with traditional Japanese iconography, items and memorabilia, and standing in front of them was a suit of samurai armor with locks of curly blonde hair protruding from the back of the helmet. Hiya. So kawaii. A high-pitched female voice shrieked out from the demon samurai mask. Stay back or I'll slice you with my katana. She said as she unsheathed her samurai sword. I think I'm done for the day. Issei threw his hands up in the air and began making his way to the door. Wait. Rias grabbed hold of Issei's shoulder to stop him from leaving. We can't leave, you need to learn how to properly perform your devil duties, and I think starting off small can be good for you. Starting off small, PFFTTT. Issei rolled his eyes before definitely crossing his arms. She wants us to go and get her damn notebook she left at school cause she's too scared to get it herself. The pan is really kawaii at night. Who knows what could happen to a beautiful young girl like me. The frightened foreign samurai answered back in her defense. Shut it. Issei roared back with, pointing his finger and quickly silencing the blonde samurai. Come on, doesn't taking a job like this hurt your pride, even just a little bit? True, this isn't what I'd call an ideal use of a devil contract, but regardless I pride myself on a job well done, and I don't see myself above helping others regardless of what form that may take. Rias replied in a lecturing tone that made it difficult for Issei to meet her gaze. We're already here, can't you just go and get her notebook? Ugh, this whatever. Issei rolled his eyes before heading to the door. But both of y'all have gotta stay here, I can't see neither of y'all for a minute. Issei threatened before slamming the door behind him. Later. Wham. Issei swung the door open hard with a kick before throwing the notebook down on the floor. There, I got it, let's go. Huh. Issei looked over to find Rias and the samurai sitting together at a table deep in conversation as they sipped cups of tea. So, I have no idea what to do, I feel like I've tried everything. Well, you know, not everything, but anything else would just be too embarrassing. I feel like if things keep progressing this way, he'll never know how I feel about him. A small pink blush had formed over the samurai's demon mask as she rambled. Yeah, I can see where that'd be frustrating. Unfortunately, I don't have much experience in this field. Rias replied as a frustrated Issei stomped his way up to and shot the red-haired devil an impatient frustrated glare. Ah. Perfect timing, we'll just get a guy's perspective on the topic. Whoa. Issei cried out as Rias drug him down by the arm to sit at the table. Alright Susan, please inform Issei about your predicament and see if you can get his opinion on it. I promise he won't bite. Rias encouraged the nervous young girl. Oh well, if you say so. The menacing-looking samurai nervously pushed her fingers together. Please, call me Susan-chan. You see Mr. Scary Devil-kun, there's this super cute guy I'm really interested in, but I have no idea how I should approach him or how to convey these feelings. Do you have any advice, Mr. Scary Devil-kun? Seriously? Ha. Issei let out a deep sigh as he gave in to the undesirable setting he'd found himself in. Well, is he seeing somebody? Oh no, I don't think so. Well then that should be pretty simple then, just ask the guy on a date. Don't make it about commitment or being your boyfriend, don't tell him you love him cause that should push a guy into a corner, but if it's just a single date with no string attached, well. Issei shrugged. As long as he's not into somebody else or just an asshole, he'd most likely say yes. Issei stood up. Well there you go, let's hit the road. Wait. Susan-chan cried out and grabbed the boy by the wrist, getting Issei to stop annoyed in his tracks. Just ask him out. How should I go about that? I'd get too nervous trying to do something like that in person. Not my problem. Issei shook his hand free. Just text the guy or something. Issei stood up once again, getting Rias to roll her eyes. Maybe you should write a note. The red-haired devil suggested, getting Issei to stop in his tracks. That's an incredible idea. Issei spun back around on his foot to acknowledge the idea. Really? Rias raised an eyebrow at just how enthusiastic her pawn was about this idea. Hell yeah, it may be a little old-fashioned, but a handwritten letter makes a guy feel special. Contrary to popular belief, for the most case guys do go for the romantic stuff, and depending on what you write, you may get the guy to fall in love with words on a page. Issei explained with a warm smile and a nod of his head. If a straight-up in-person confession is off the table, a love letter may be your best choice. Really? Rias asked with an amused smirk. So would a love letter be able to melt even the infamous Issei Haidu's thuggish heart? Of course. Issei shamelessly admitted. Even if I didn't really like the girl, a handwritten love letter from the heart would get at least one date out of me. Gotta admit boss, this is a pretty good idea. Later. Bad idea, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. Issei, Rias and Susan-chan had relocated to a concrete clearing surrounded by trees. The blonde samurai had a longbow drawn back with an arrow strapped with her love letter on the end, pointed up in the air. What the hell are you thinking? What? You told me to write a letter. How else am I supposed to get it to him? Susan-chan argued back as she steadied her bow. I can't just hand it to him, that's way too embarrassing. Well then why not leave it in his locker or mail it to him? Issei tried to argue back, but Susan-chan wouldn't be dissuaded. There's no time for that. She roared back with determination. But what if Issei wasn't able to finish before the arrow was sent flying beyond the tree line, resulting with a dink upon its landing, followed by a loud thud? That happens. Oh no. What do I do? Susan-chan began to panic. Beats me, but luckily he isn't dead. Issei said as his enhanced devil hearing alerted him to the sound of clanking footsteps. But unless that arrow gave the guy a lobotomy, he's probably pissed. And he's wearing metal shoes. Suddenly a marching suit of medieval knight armor appeared in the clearing, with Susan's arrow sticking out from his head. Oh, that makes more sense. But not really. Susan-chan. The knight cried out as he held tighter letter in his iron gauntlets. Your note has pierced my heart like your arrow pierced my helmet. In fact, I was so love-struck by your words that it literally knocked me off my feet. Susan-chan. I love you, I always have. Oh, Hari-kun. Susan ran for her literal knight in shining armor and the two embraced with a loud metallic clang. The newly formed couple was about to retreat into the night but not before Susan made her farewell. Thank you so much, devils. Rias smiled gently as she watched the armored couple disappear into the night, a small red blush formed on her face. Did you see how happy they were together? Wouldn't it be great if we could all find something like what they have? What they have? Issei tried to imagine the beauty of a newly formed relationship between a young man and woman, but all he could picture was a samurai walking hand in hand with a knight and it just made him smirk. Sure, if you say so. Issei put his hands behind his head and began to walk away, but he noticed his master remained frozen in place. Issei rolled his eyes before turning back for her. Hey Issei. Rias muttered without looking back at her pawn. Don't be a jerk and answer this question for me. Do you believe in true love? True love? Bit of an old-fashioned concept, don't you think, and not really one you'd find a devil valuing. Issei said with a smirk, prompting an annoyed sigh from Rias before Issei continued. But you know my dad, he traded everything, wealth, power, status, security, also he could marry my mom. When I look back on my parents, I'd like to think my dad wasn't some sort of moron that gave all that up for no reason, so yeah, I like to believe there is such a thing as true love, and my parents managed to find it, and it was so powerful that it was worth every sacrifice. That's pretty deep thinking, Issei, and kinda romantic. Are you sure you're really a thug? Rias poked fun at her pawn as she turned to leave. Yes, I'm sure. Issei said as he followed after her. That's why if you ever tell anybody about that or the love letter shit, I'll knock your lights out. It won't matter if you are my boss or a girl. Issei shook his fist at the amused girl. You know it's gonna be hard to take any of that tough guy talk seriously after tonight. She continued taunting, making Issei's face go red. I'll show you serious. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.